This is a song-by-song deep dive into the 25 songs on the They Might Be Giants album Nanobots from 2011. My feeling is if the two Johns thought it was worthy of inclusion on the album, then it was. And every track deserves some attention. So let's get into it. If it's another TMBG album, that means it's another stupendous John Linnell leadoff track. This time around, it's Youre On Fire. The main guitar riff is fab indeed, and consists of two guitars playing the same note but in each speaker in a cool little rhythm. It's just like Wake Up, a 1984 song by XTC, which also has two guitars, each propping up the left and right channels of a cool, crunchy guitar riff.
Hi, I forgot your name. What?
On top of that, Linnell's vocal melodies are just glorious classic rock. They alternately lurk and swell, just like the narrator, an oddly circumspect figure who keeps sheepishly telling someone that their head is on fire and that their car is being towed and other unfortunate news. It's a stellar way to begin Nanobots, and it does so in a sort of laid-back yet frantic way. It's not as noisy as it could be, with lots of space detectable under the peaks, but its itchiness can't be denied. The video shows a woman cooking dinner, and a tub of ground beef is singing the words. But despite the flames, nobody's head catches fire in the video. The album's title song is next, and Nanobots has a cool computery feel because of the robot-style monotone singing in the background, mirroring Linnell's main lines. The lyrics are about raising up little nanobots that will then take over the world. Those backing robot vocals remind me of the also obviously human singing in Flight of the Conchords' Robots.
We are robots.
The world is very different ever since the robotic uprising of the mid-90s.
Roll the nanobots up, roll them in the cracks in the sidewalk.
Linnell explained that Nanobots isn't about kids so much as about reproduction itself, and the fact that kids grow up to have kids of their own. And it's all a big endless cycle that humanity does, even though it isn't clear what the point of any of it is. And speaking of classic rock, one verse in this song names one of my favorite songs of all time.
All I see is pictures of matchstick men. I turn my back for 2 minutes and they've grown again.
Pictures of Matchstick Men is a song by Status Quo from 1967. When I first heard it in the late 80s, I was blown away, and I still am when I listen to it. Good for Linnell. Anyway, the video for Nanobots features two scientists growing little nanobots in a lab, and of course the little creatures unite and take over the lab and eventually the entire world. Flansburgh's Black Ops is next, and it's a much darker and spacier song. Black Ops is a dramatic depiction of a drone operator dropping bombs on targets from afar but being conflicted about it. As Flansburgh explained, the song explores immorality versus amorality. Musically, there are several exquisite and unusual touches, like the way the beautiful main tune is interrupted by sudden violent explosions of noise. Or how the song keeps getting abruptly cut off towards the end.
He'll be standing when the music stops. We're not one.
Actually, those noise explosion sections remind me a lot of Sinister Exaggerator by The Residents from 1978. And it won't be the last time this album reminds me of The Residents. The video for Black Ops is a series of military scenes with soldiers parachuting into fields and close-ups of maps in various languages. It's nearly all in black and very dark gray though, paralleling the sinister feel of the song itself, except during the Residents parts, which are short explosions of violent colors. Next is Linnell's Lost My Mind. Like several of his songs from this era, it's distinguished by its sort of anthemic guitar power chords. Here strummed once each in big powerful blasts like they were on You Don't Like Me from Join Us.
Nowhere to be found, probably buried underground. I go try to dig it up, but I don't want to waste my time.
The lyrics are pretty much what the title sounds like. The narrator has lost his mind, apparently quite recently, and now is debating whether or not to go looking for it. In the end, he just says, screw it.
Nowhere to be found, probably buried underground. I go try to dig it up, but I don't want to waste my time.
What would a TMBG album be without songs about insanity? Circular Karate Chop is next, and it's a bright, fun song with buzzing guitars and a cheesy circus keyboard and weird timing that makes it really hard to tap your foot along to.
Never took a class before in self-defense. Never looked at you before with common sense. Gird myself for a short, sharp shot.
Flansburgh lets the melody of his singing do half the work, but leaves the other half to the music and the production. It has a retro feel, recalling earlier days of TMBG, especially songs like Till My Head Falls Off and even Boss of Me, which, when they were new around the turn of the century, seemed retro themselves.
You suspiciously change the subject and break my concentration as I dump the bottle out and I count the apples up again.
You're so proud of your circular karate chop. Afternoons in the mirror doing pop and lock.
The lyrics address someone who is very proud of their martial arts training, and the narrator is accepting of the fact that this alpha male is going to bully him and take his stuff. There's a spoken section in the middle that's very reminiscent of Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head from the very first album.
Memo to myself. Do the dumb things I gotta do. Touch the puppet head.
3 rules from your sensei. 1. Outsource your feelings.
And speaking of 1986, one line in Circular Karate Chop references the classic Commodore machine and its controller.
You're still looking for your Commodore control stick. So
Like a few other songs on Nanobots, the next track, Call You Mom, makes use of unaccompanied a cappella sections.
I think I'd like to call you Mom, 'cause you remind me of my mom.
Linnell shoehorns his lines in between funky guitar and sax riffs. It's kinda like the music from The Lady and the Tiger off Join Us, but with more energy. Again, the space in this arrangement is further evidence that on this album, They Might Be Giants are exploring a new universe of atmospheres and moods. As you might glean from the title, the narrator in Call You Mom wants to call his girlfriend Mom because she reminds him of her. By the end of the song, she's gone, as you might expect, so he vows to find a new girlfriend, but this time he thinks she will consider him the mother figure because he'll remind her of her own mother. You know, fascinating and unsettling Linnellian complexity. Flansburgh's Sweet Tesla is a sympathetic tribute to Serbian inventor Nikola Tesla, whose experiments with electronics helped pave the way for the modern world. The lyrics recount some of Tesla's achievements and the details of his death in 1943, alone in a hotel room in New York where he lived.
Tesla ushered the radio wave into the world, ushered the neon light into the world. The Hotel New Yorker, he's dead on the floor.
The music is very different than the similarly themed Edison Museum from Long Tall Weekend, but Tesla did actually work for Edison when he first arrived in the United States, so there's sort of a connection there. The video for Tesla is notable in that it's 24 minutes long and is actually 10 wildly different mixes of the song in a row, each with a different black and white video. The style is consistent throughout because the look is based on Super 8 film and the whole thing was overseen by Paul Sayre, whose art studio worked with the band on several of their album covers, including this one. The album's first short snippet song is next. It's called Sleep and it's about 40 seconds long. The music is sort of weird with pounding single chords and drum hits, and seems to use the stylophone, a 1960s electronic keyboard toy that was also used on Bee of the Bird of the Moth on the Else in 2007. The lyrics are about a guy going to sleep for the night who always feels upset that the morning version of him is in reality a totally different guy, but one who will be going around living the night guy's life.
Each time
Like the guitar chords of Let Your Hair Hang Down on Join Us, whose editing I talked about in that video, here the same effect is applied to the vocals, where you can't quite hear the very beginning of each word.
Each time I sleep, I'm sad. I will be replaced by somebody else.
You know, each time I sleep, I'm sad, I will be replaced by someone else too. Stone Cold Coup d'etat is great, a highlight for me of Nanobots, and the very last song on side 1 of the vinyl. It's got a little minor key guitar melody that reminds me a lot more of the great Monks of Doom than anything from TMBG. The lyrics are a list of weird and wonderful examples of coups d'etat, including an orchestra rising up and killing the conductor, stars killing the moon and sun so they can take over the sky, and the queen bee being vanquished by the other lesser bees. It's all very merry, until the verse in which a brother and sister give each other secret signals during a family dinner, participating in the murder of the parents. Whew. The chorus for this song has a melody to die for, where Linnell extends the use of French over a raunchy guitar riff and, oh yes, cowbell. Remind me of mid-70s Aerosmith.
Ah yeah, what is that certain je ne sais quoi? Ah yeah, it's a stone cold coup d'etat.
It's awesome, and I can't think of anything in the band's catalog that sounds anything like this, really. Side 2 of Nanobots is very adventurous. It opens with Flansburgh's Sometimes a Lonely Way, a gentle ballad with a chorus of vocals. He sings with regret, a wistful lyric about abandonment and forced change. Like a divorce or a musical artist whose audience is shrinking past the point of viability.
Sometimes a lonely way, taking your name down from the Jumbotron. Find a new place to stay, and a new home for the trumpeter swan.
There were 2 videos for this song, the original one based on an experimental film from the 1920s, and the second from 2018 showing sweeping, slow-moving shots of New York City at night. The second perfectly captures the feeling of loneliness and isolation in the song. Destroy the Past is about 15 seconds long and the first snippet on Nanobots that could have fit in perfectly anywhere in the original Fingertips. It's a little rock song in miniature with only 2 lines of lyrics. Linnell's 9 Secret Steps could be accused of plagiarism, sounding a whole lot like the 1997 remake of the song James K. Polk from Factory Showroom, especially the drums.
In 1844,
Instead of an American history lesson, though, 9 Secret Steps sounds like a grand mocking of self-improvement hyperbole. It's all aggressively super positive, so much so that the words confuse themselves and end up being meaningless.
throw away the thing that tells you not to throw the thing away. You'll forget to rue the day you went ahead and threw the thing away.
The next 6 pieces are snippets, although one ends with a long guitar solo, which may be my favorite musical moment on Nanobots. The first 4 songs are Hive Mind, which is that phrase repeated twice over a bit of Tropicalia, Decision Makers, an absurdly melodramatic musical cousin to the Leave Me Alone part of Fingertips, Nouns, a 70s commercial jingle sounding tune that runs through parts of speech, and it's kind of a comment on how They Might Be Giants have had a tough time finding new topics to write and sing about, and There, sung by Flansburgh's wife Robin Goldwasser, and about the space on a map between 2 countries. And then there's Insect Hospital. It's a minute and a half long, but after 40 seconds or so of repetitive lyrics about literally walking down to the insect hospital, it morphs into a brutal psychedelic guitar jam. It'll melt your face off. And just to bring us all back to the land of the giants, the 10-second tick follows with a raggedy piano and poorly recorded male chorus, accusing a tick for their predicament. There were, believe it or not, videos for each of these 6 snippets. Paul Sayre made little art project videos for all of them except Tick. They are necessarily short and simple and show things like spinning blocks or zooms way into digital scans of old photographs. Then, Hine Mizushima did a stop animation video for all 6 songs as a single piece, and it featured insects and computer keys and other wondrous nouns.
Walking down to the insect hospital to set the insects free.
The next 2 songs are back-to-back twin quasars of inspired production. First, Replicant, which is cool and jazzy. It opens with Linnell scatting along to the melody doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, over a subtle fuzz synth and bass backing. The lyrics address a replicant, one's child apparently, in some sort of situation where the child has gotten into trouble with the cops, just as his no-good father might have done, and the parent is covering for him.
Whatever you did, we'll get through this. Go out the back and I'll deal with the cops. You got his eyes.
The instrumentation is so haunting, and the doo-doo-doo-doos are a stroke of musical genius. I'm kind of always sorry to see this one end. It really does pull you into its world. But end it does, to make way for the equally unnerving, in a good way, the Darlings of Lumberland. It also sounds jazzy, but in a more 1967 Donovan kind of way, thanks to its flute and hipster brass band flourishes. Best of all is the effect on Flansburgh's multi-tracked vocals. They sound warbly, and there's one weird chord that always sounds a bit out of place. Like it should be a minor, but it's actually a major, something like that. It's a fantastic chord, and it really builds the chorus into the misshapen monstrosity that it is.
Yes, it's the darlings of Lumberland. Their voices are the echoes, mausoleums turned to sand.
The verses are quieter and restrained and consist of vivid, impressionistic glimpses of a family named Darling. Flansburgh explained in interviews that the Darlings were important in the history of Lumberland, a town in southern New York State. Not Kanajahari, but not a world away either, except musically. After the unsettling, enveloping world of Lumberland is the noisy 50-second-long grate, in which the band pummels you with machine gun shots as the narrator has a brief conversation with his friend Dave.
Hey, Dave, if you have $100, I can save you $200.
They talk about money, after which Dave goes downtown, clutching some cash, quote, to get you stuff. It's like a little unexplainable anecdote to bring us back into the world of difficult or unusual relationships, which TMBG have always been drawn to writing and singing about. But as plain as the little non-story of Great is, the jumbled text of Stuff His Way is the opposite. It's like Linnell wrote out some words and then cut them up and pasted them back together at random, a technique of the Dadaists of the 20s, later explored further by William Burroughs and Brian Geisen. But the lyrics here do have a more natural flow that makes some kind of specific intent apparent as you listen to the song.
Did you just what? Is what you yes? Did you whatever you I guess? The star.
Sort of. I mean, it occasionally seems to be about something, but the narrator's never able to pull himself together enough to really make sense, except maybe to himself. The music is equally moody, sounding like a nightclub combo joined by an Indonesian gamelan player.
Go away. Who had you was? Yes, you would.
Again, They Might Be Giants are chasing the muse wherever it goes on Nanobots. Fearless. And next is Icky, a great song about a guy nobody really wants around because he's overbearing and he's always borrowing things without giving them back. Kind of reminds me of maybe he's like the schoolyard bully of Circular Karate Chop, but now he's all grown up and he's reduced to mooching off of his irritated friends. The most notable thing about Icky is its chipper sing-along spirit, especially the recurring phrase, first name, getting all up in your, last name, face. The song is further testament to John Linnell's apparent deep, abiding love of 60s music, in this case mid-60s beat guitar rock. There was a great video for Icky, with animated cutouts like the titular Icky guy, strolling all over and using the town as his personal playground to the consternation of everyone, including the two Johns. Another character study follows in Too Tall Girl. The words are about the tall woman who has developed an urbane style and a detached distance, making her out of reach for an admirer. The music in Too Tall Girl may seem strangely familiar. It reminds me a lot of The Biggest One, a They Might Be Giants B-side from 1988. But it also reminds me a lot of Bach is Dead, another Resident song from 1978, from the very same album as the other Resident song I mentioned back in Black Ops.
Bach is dead. Bach is dead.
Yet again, Flansburgh has found an unusual chord to give the melody a swollen sort of unexpected twist. It's not an unusual chord per se, it's just an F, but it's just the way it interacts with his vocal tune.
Fall in love with the too tall girl, deleterious and delirious.
This song, too, is strongly reminiscent of 1960s era pop music, with gentle bells that ring out and a kind of swinging flow, just like Downtown by Petula Clark. And then Nanobots ends with one more snippet, about 20 seconds long. It's called Didn't Kill Me. It's just John Flansburgh with no accompaniment, with his voice sped up so he sounds like a grizzled old singer from the mountains of North Carolina, singing what sounds like a short section of an old folk tune about the end of a relationship.
Though she didn't kill me, she didn't make me stronger. Though she didn't kill me, some parts didn't mend.
So that's the album Nanobots in all its glory. It exists in a very wide stylistic landscape and peppers its traditional rock songs with some challenging instrumentation and inspired detours. It finds They Might Be Giants continuing to push themselves, and what they find on Nanobots is outrageous and inviting at the same time. So thanks for watching. Next will be their 2015 album, Gleam. See you then.